Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the 13-bean chili of video games. Square Enix left nothing on the cutting room floor, and what we're left with is a video game that's so chock full of gamey goodness that you might get indigestion if you try to consume it all at once. You may have heard people complain that the game is bloated, that the pacing is a mess, but what if I told you there's a way to experience it in a more digestible way? Buckle up, because we're about to discover.
Where's the fun? What's the gameplay loop? What does a 30-minute session look like?
Let's find out, baby!
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is an open-world, character action, pseudo-turn-based, deck building, dating sim, real-time strategy, rhythm, rail shooter, Mario Party-like RPG. It was developed by Square Enix's Creative Studio 1, the internal team behind the entire FF7 Remake series. In case you're unfamiliar, the Remake series is a trilogy of games, and Rebirth is the second and most recent entry. According to HowLongToBeat.com, Rebirth's main story can be completed in around 48 hours, its main story and side content can be completed in around 91 hours, and a completionist run will take around 166 hours to complete. That makes it much longer than both Final Fantasy VII Remake, which preceded it, and the original Final Fantasy VII, which released in 1997. It takes 2 or so hours to get through Chapter 1, which serves as the game's prologue. While this may seem long, it accurately represents the regular pace of the main story content of the game quite accurately. So, covering this game is a bit complicated. I think that's because it's really like 4 games glued together, and one of those 4 games is a minigame compilation. The good news is that all of these individual pieces are pretty good, but they don't necessarily serve each other, so that's bad. I feel like most of the criticism I've seen levied at this game is that there's simply too much stuff in it, and that's fair. But hey, I'm an optimist. Square Enix dropped a big fat, generous pot of game in front of me, and I'm gonna gobble it up with intention. You see, if you treat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as a bunch of different games all stitched together, it becomes clear that each individual game is best enjoyed one at a time. Allow me to explain. If you've played Final Fantasy VII Remake, you know that it's a linear, narrative-driven, prestige RPG with a perfect blend of epic action, emotional character moments, humor, and intriguing narrative setup. What if I told you that Rebirth is also that? That's right, just like Remake, Rebirth is a 40-ish hour long, narrative-driven, prestige RPG with that same blend of action, emotion, humor, and intriguing setup. It just also happens to be an open-world checklist game, a trading card game, and a minigame compilation, among many other things. To me, the key to maximizing your enjoyment of Rebirth is to treat it as a linear, narrative-driven game first, and everything else second. The open world and the minigames aren't side content, they're extra content, and they're best enjoyed at your own pace after you finish the story. Better yet, if you're an RPG hound like me, the game has an amazing New Game Plus hard mode. That means all the time you spend after finishing the story, clearing open world quests, completing combat challenges, doing minigames, it actually makes you stronger and sets you up for success in that second playthrough. And guess what? You can hop between your post-game save and your hard mode New Game Plus whenever you want. So I like to bounce back and forth. I'll clear content in the post-game until I'm worn out, then switch over to hard mode and make progress there. If I hit a wall, I jump back into the post-game to power up. I recommend playing the main story on the regular difficulty, where there's no level scaling, and then changing it to dynamic once you reach the post-game, so that content is always scaled up to your level. With this suggestion, you get the best of both worlds, a satisfying narrative-driven RPG and an addicting post-game gameplay loop. Since I'm suggesting that you treat the game like 2 halves, I will also treat them as 2 separate gameplay loops. For when you're focusing on the main story content, I would list the core gameplay loop as follows. 1. Arrive at a new town. 2. Traverse the open world. 3. Arrive at and clear the next dungeon. 4. Fight a boss. It's really not too dissimilar from a classic JRPG structure, including the one found in the original Final Fantasy VII. Now, trying to assign a strict gameplay loop to all the other content in the game isn't as simple, since there's so much variety in what's available for you to do. But I would say my own personal post-game loop is 1. Chip away at the vast array of content. 2. Hop into the hard mode to experience more of the core main story gameplay loop. So that's how I break the game into 2 clean loops. The main story loop that follows a classic JRPG rhythm, and the post-game loop where you bounce between open world cleanup and hard mode progression. But loops only matter if the moment-to-moment gameplay feels good. So with that in mind, let's dig into the core verbs of Rebirth, the things you'll actually be doing minute to minute as you play. 1. Fight. 2. Strategize. 3. Explore. 4. Dilly-dally. In my opinion, the thing that makes Final Fantasy VII Rebirth worth playing for so many hours is its incredible combat system. Ask most people who've played it and they'll tell you it's one of the best combat systems ever made. But don't let anyone convince you this is a hack and slash or a full-blown action system like Kingdom Hearts, because that's simply not true. The combat in the FF7 Remake project is best described as Active Time Battle 3.0. If you're unfamiliar with the Final Fantasy series, every mainline entry from 4 through 9 used the original Active Time Battle system, better known as the ATB system. Instead of strict turns, characters and enemies acted on cooldowns, creating a sense of real-time action while keeping the strategy of turn-based combat. This system returned in a new form with the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy, as what we can call ATB 2.0. And believe it or not, the FF7 Remake project is something of a spiritual successor to 13's design philosophy, so it only makes sense that its combat evolves the ATB system yet again. While you can try to play this game like Kingdom Hearts, it's really best to approach the combat with a strategy first, action second mindset. At any moment, you can slow the action to a crawl and pull up the command menu, giving you time to plan your next move, fire off abilities and spells, and analyze enemy strengths and weaknesses. Unlike the older ATB system that relied on cooldowns, ATB 3.0 has you building up charges and then spending them to use abilities, cast spells, or use items. The ATB meter does fill slowly on its own, but the real way to generate charges is by attacking and defending. Your basic attacks don't cost ATB, and they barely deal damage. Their main purpose is to quickly build your ATB meter. I know that sounds a little complicated, so let me just show you how it works. Alright, so we can see the command menu here. I have the action paused here in real time. You can see that it's kind of slowly moving forward, but it's pretty lenient. So right now I don't have any of my charges built up. You can see the charge meters on the bottom right of the screen. So let's see what the real-time action looks like. So you have 3 people on your party at any given time. You are able to freely swap between them. It's actually highly encouraged that you do this instead of just controlling one character at a time to kind of optimize what is happening. Their AI will, make them do basic attacks and defend and all that, but it's up to you to fire off their abilities and everything. So we can see that Tifa has a charge ready to go, so I can select a ability for her to do. So let's do Unbridled Strength. I'm going to move over to her. We can see that that's firing off. Unbridled Strength kind of improves her basic attacks and allows her to do these kind of special abilities. So these little elephants here, actually positioning is important when fighting them. It's encouraged that you fight them from the back. We can actually see this here. If I hit the select button, you can pull up an enemy's sort of like strategy screen, so you can see an explanation of kind of how they work, best ways to take advantage of their weaknesses. On the right side, you can see their elemental weaknesses, if they're immune or weak to any particular status ailments or anything like that. So this is a really helpful screen to have. So we can see here that exploiting their elemental weakness will pressure them while their guard is up, landing powerful offensive abilities from behind will pressure them, but also cause them to see red, so they'll get angry. And we can see that they're weak to fire and ice. So we have Aerith over here. I'm going to work on trying to build up one of her charges. So we have her built up now. I have her spells here. And I actually have Blizzard right here. This is one of the elements that the Alpha Dunks are weak to. So I can go ahead and fire that off. And we can see that the enemy was pressured, and now I can actually kind of take advantage of that with Tifa here. Tifa is really good at raising stagger. And here we are, we're just staggered an enemy. When they're in a stagger state, they take extra damage for a short period of time. I'm going to do this Star Shower ability on the Alpha Dunk right there. I'm going to swap over to Cloud while that is happening. We actually killed that enemy. I have a Firebolt Blade ability that I know will take advantage of that fire weakness that the Alpha Dunk has, so I'm going to do that. While that animation is playing out, I'll swap to Tifa. And that worked out because it got pressured, and now I can... Oh, we have a limit that's ready from Tifa. We can do that. Probably a little bit of overkill, but that's always fun, right? So while that's all happening, we can see that it died. We can now take on this Toxic-Rat. We can see that it is weak to ice. Perfect, because we have Blizzard. I will fire that off. While that's being charged up, we'll hop in with Cloud, do some hits, and boom, we won. So you can see here it's a blend of the pausing of the action, swapping between party members while, you know, other party members are doing stuff when animations are playing out. It's very fun, and I love the pace of everything. It's a perfect blend of action and strategy, in my opinion. Another important thing to consider is the, let me try the synergy abilities here. So as you spend ATB charges on abilities and spells and stuff like that, you actually build up this little synergy bar. You can see it next to Cloud's little icon face thing. So this is actually incentive for you to use every party member because, you know, as you're using the ATB charges for each party member, they're building up their own synergy charge. And whenever each person has enough charges, you can trigger these really powerful synergy abilities. So, again, not encouraged to play the game like Kingdom Hearts, where you're just controlling Cloud, you know, and just playing it like an action game. It's really preferable that you're swapping between everybody. And it's really fun. Because, you know, no longer do you have to wait for long animations to play out. You can just hop on over to the other character and take stuff on while, you know, Aerith is charging up a spell or whatever. So this combat rules. So that covers fighting. Next, let's talk about strategizing. Strategizing is a core part of fighting in Rebirth, but it's also something you'll spend a lot of time doing outside of combat. You'll spend time upgrading your party members and trying out different party compositions, trying out different weapons for each character, and of course, you'll lose hours working on and optimizing the materia loadouts for each character, as well as making adjustments before boss fights to make sure you're able to handle what they throw at you. All of this is good fun, but managing materia can get tedious really fast, as there's no way to save loadouts, and paying attention to materia isn't really something you can ignore unless you want to have a real bad time. Now, on to exploring. This primarily covers the open world and dungeon gameplay. Dungeons are fairly straightforward, usually sticking to one unique puzzle or mechanic at a time, and you'll only encounter them during main story content. The open world, on the other hand, provides a healthy dose of navigational challenge. Each zone that you explore has its own chocobo that you'll need to use to fully explore an area. Real quick though, just to reinforce why I think you should focus on the main story first, I want to say that I think the quote-unquote open world is not amazing. I mean, each zone is really designed more like a knockoff 3D Mario or something. Outside of the first zone, each area is rigidly designed around the navigational mechanics specific to that zone's chocobo. The result is that the zones require that you navigate and explore them in a very specific way, and I find that it's strangely difficult to find out how to get to specific sections of the map, especially because the in-game map is extremely unhelpful. Rather than providing freeform exploration, the zones become more about finding the right mushroom to hop on, or the right series of walls to climb, or the right ramp to glide off of. To some extent, I respect that the developers designed the worlds more intentionally versus just making the player walk in a straight line towards a waypoint, but unfortunately, I don't think the design is very good, and I find that I get tired of working on the checklist of stuff to do in each zone very quickly. So yeah, I recommend that you save most of that open world exploration for after you beat the story, because it's very easy to get caught up in how much stuff there is to find and do in each zone, and it will severely affect the pacing of the main game if you're not careful. Now, finally, Rebirth offers much in the way of dilly-dallying, with its vast array of minigames and goofy side quests. You've likely heard about Queen's Blood, which is really less of a minigame and more like a whole extra game to enjoy. Queen's Blood is an incredibly fun digital trading card game experience, and it's presented as a whole separate quest line that unfolds throughout the game. It's entirely optional, and you can put it off until the post-game if you want, but if you end up enjoying it as much as I did, you'll likely want to play it every chance you get. Beyond that, there are a plethora of true minigames to enjoy, and each one offers a handful of valuable rewards to motivate you to shoot for a high score. Oh, and there's a whole micro-dating sim element in the game as well, with date scenes that you can unlock with each character and everything. Luckily, the game ensures that none of this stuff is missable, thanks to a handy chapter select feature that's unlocked when you finish the story. So again, don't feel like you need to be a completionist during the main story. Save it for after. Just trust me. Now, let's answer our final question. What does a 30-minute session look like? I'm gonna have to say that I think this game is not great for quick play sessions. The main story content has a lot of cutscenes, so 30 minutes can go by without much in the way of gameplay, and when you are playing, it's best to take the time to strategize with your material loadouts before jumping straight into fights, and all of that can take a lot of time. Even the side content has a fairly leisurely pace to it, especially with how laborious navigating the open world can be. I can imagine that all of this would feel much more frustrating if you only have 30 minutes to spare. Instead, save this game for a lazy weekend or a vacation. When the game first came out, I told my partner that I was going to be busy for the next week, and I played for like 6 hours every evening and finished the main story within that week, and it felt perfect. So, where's the fun? It's spread all over the place, but it's most concentrated in the main story content, so just start there.